Happy Monday. Welcome to the sneak preview. I'm Connor Eyzaguirre.
I'm Caleb Berger.
And today, instead of the 355 or the Tender Bar, both of which are getting eviscerated by critics and not really worth our time, we decided to celebrate the career of beloved horror director Wes Craven, seeing as next week we are getting a new Scream film. Craven sadly passed away in 2015, and his filmography is certainly unique. He gave us some bona fide horror classics and also some lukewarm forgettables. We're going to dig into most of them today and rank his work from worst to best individually, excluding a few for reasons we'll get into later. But first, let's see what happened last week in film. Last week in film. Only one trailer this week. Roland Emmerich's latest disaster porn adventure, Moonfall. Stars Halle Berry, Patrick Wilson, John Bradley, Michael Pena, and Donald Sutherland. Comes out February 4th. And you know what? Roland Emmerich has a shtick he has been doing since the 90s, but I'll be damned if I don't love it.
Yeah, I Independence Day 2 aside, right?
Yeah.
The man is really good at making disaster films. And for as much as I love it, I'm down for a challenging film that makes me think, but I'm also a much bigger sucker for turn my brain off, leave it at the door, and just enjoy the ride. And that's what he does best. Again, Independence Day Resurgence aside on that one, he's really good at these types of films. It looks like fun. I'm down. Yeah, and especially considering we're entering like year 2 through every year we're entering on the current Transformer variant of COVID. Give me dumb fun right now.
Yeah. I mean, Independence Day was fun. 2012 was ridiculous but fun. And he did The Patriot, which is weird because that's such a heartfelt film. But
yeah, didn't he do Day After Tomorrow?
Yep, that was him too.
Yeah, I thought that was fun. I actually really like that movie.
I have not seen that one. But I'm sure it's, I can guess what's going on there. I know I'm missing a couple. I think did he do Geostorm?
No, I don't think he did.
Okay. Well, Moonfall looks interesting. Looks like some big alien knocks the moon out of orbit, and Halle Berry and her squad has to somehow put the moon back.
Right, and we'll get plenty of carnage on Earth to witness. Like I said, man, I'm all down for big dumb fun at the movies. I'm not one of those. It's like I get annoyed when people are like, "This isn't cinema." Shut up.
It's all cinema. Let's get that straight right now. If it's a movie, it's fucking cinema. So there it is.
It's gonna be fun. We're still in this fucking pandemic, so between that, Jackass Forever, give me the dumbest shit you can for me to just enjoy, laugh, have a good time.
As Nicolas Cage once said in his acclaimed film Pig, we get so little to actually care about. So just enjoy it when you get something that looks exciting. Moonfall.
And I was a sucker for their rendition of Bad Moon. I was a sucker for it. I won't lie.
I love that song. And I was like, yeah, all right, this works.
Yeah.
A little on the nose, but whatever. So is, the fucking moon crashing to Earth and Samuel Tarly being like, only I can stop this. So I don't know. I'm sure it'll be ridiculous. I'm sure we'll talk about it and we'll have a good time.
Yeah. You think he'll be looking for Jon Snow throughout the movie?
I feel like you want everyone who is in Game of Thrones to reference the fact that they were in Game of Thrones in all their movies going forward.
I absolutely do. No, it's all because Marvel did not give me the fucking moment in Eternals, and I don't know why. It pisses me off to this day. You had 2 Starks, because I don't care what you say. Jon Snow may have been a bastard, but he was a goddamn Stark as far as I'm concerned.
He wasn't a bastard. He was a Targaryen.
Or sorry, yeah, he was a Targaryen. That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so did the fucking show.
Yeah, that's probably why I forgot, because the show forgot. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. That's why I was always creeped out when. Yeah. Okay, I won't get into that. But the heart of a Stark, and there was a fucking moment there that they should have taken in Eternals. They didn't. God damn it.
I'm sure since John Bradley's playing a scientist or something, somewhere along the line, either he will say or somebody will say to him, "You know nothing." I'm sure that'll happen. So you're gonna probably get that.
Just keep making reference to your most famous for it's the best way to act.
Going forward, Pixar's new film Turning Red is going to be skipping theaters and debuting directly on Disney Plus, making this the third Pixar film to do so after Soul and Luca. Turning Red will hit streaming on March 11th. I guess because Encanto didn't make the kind of money they were hoping for, Disney's not really banking that hard on the Red Panda movie.
Yeah. At first I was kind of worried, because I've been the same day, E3 isn't going to be an in-person event this year. And I thought, shit, it's happening again. Apparently, no, none of this has to really do directly with COVID at all. Apparently E3 was actually having issues pre-COVID. COVID enhanced it. So they just decided to say, fuck it, we're not doing it in person. So it actually had nothing to do with COVID this year. In case anyone's been wondering about why E3 won't be in San Diego. Or wherever the fuck it takes place at. I forget. Streaming. I always watch it online anyway. But in the case of Turning Red, it wasn't necessarily directly COVID. It was, but wasn't it's not because it's raging. It's just because like you said, family films aren't making the kind of money Spider-Man's making. And
yeah.
Disney's just all right, let's just put it on there. I know it sucks. I know the Pixar guys were really bitching when Luca, they made a decision with Luca, and a lot of Pixar workers came out of the woodwork. I get it, but again, I've been saying, and why I'm so annoyed with Nolan. Once you put it out there, again, it's coming from someone like Adam Green, who has worked in film, he's a fucking director, for God's sakes. And you put it out there, it's no longer yours, it's the audience. For the movie studio, the business end of it, they want people to see the fucking movie. They want to make money off the movie that they just spent millions of dollars on.
Yeah.
Who cares if it comes out in theaters? You're going to fucking see it still.
I'm just happy that I'm probably not going to have to pay $30 for this because Pixar films have not had that paywall.
Yeah.
So that's all I really care about. If it's going to go on streaming, I just don't want to have to pay $30 extra for it.
That shit bugs me so much that Disney does that. But that's just what I'm saying. It's okay. People are still going to see the movie, just not on the big screen.
I'm kind of okay with this because I wasn't that jazzed about this one anyway. It didn't look all that inspiring with Pixar's usual fare, and so I'm glad I can just watch this at home.
It seems like after Soul, the trailers I've seen for Pixar films, the last 2 or 3, have not really wowed me. You know what I mean?
Well, Luca was good, but it was basically The Little Mermaid, and Turning Red just looks kind of goofy. So
yeah.
I want to watch the movie before I make any judgment calls, but from what I've seen, it just looks kind of goofy.
Yeah, and even then with Soul, it was very clear that they were just using Inside Out as a jumping off point for that. It was okay, now you guys are trying to kind of do the same thing. I don't know. It's just they seem off to me compared to recent past Pixar films. So
yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah, it's not I'm not crying over this. It's okay. And Disney probably doesn't give a shit because Disney still has plenty of fucking films going to theaters that they're just whatever.
Yeah, Disney's rolling in Spider-Man money right now. They don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Speaking of, Sony and Marvel's new film Morbius has been delayed once again. Instead of coming out January 28th, it is now coming out April 1st. Rumors are kind of all over the place. Some people think it's COVID related. Some people think Michael Keaton needed to film more Vulture scenes. And the big one is that Andrew Garfield is filming a cameo as Spider-Man, which I think is a long shot.
Yeah, I don't think it's COVID. I really don't. Just because if that were the case, we'd see the domino effect that kind of happened in 2019, 2020, 2020. There you go.
I know the last 3 years have been one big ass super year that just bleed together.
Yeah. So it's weird to think that. But if it was that, I feel we'd be seeing that again where everything would move, and that's not the case. Scream's holding strong to its fucking weekend. Jackass Forever isn't even getting fucking moved, and it already got delayed once. So things are kind of holding strong. I don't think it's COVID. I think I don't know what's the thing with this. It's really weird to me because John Wick did the same thing, and it was like, what are you doing? Like, why are you delaying it so much?
Yeah, I think
Why?
Morbius has been delayed like 5 times total now.
Yeah, and that's what people forget. Like, it was already getting delayed multiple times pre-COVID. Like, so it's like I don't know if it's necessarily a COVID thing or they're still having issues with this movie in some way. Like, I'm really like I want to see this movie and I want to be good, but I'm getting concerned because like video games, right? Video games get delayed all the fucking time, right? Like Rockstar is fucking famous for delaying their goddamn games. But in the world of gaming, it usually equals a better product because if you don't do that, you get a fucking Cyberpunk 2077 situation. But you can all like as great as it is when it happens in games, it's always to me the reverse with movies. The more film gets delayed with movies, the more I get worried.
Yeah.
Especially if it's outside of this fucking the COVID stuff. That's different.
Well, you would think they would ride the Spider-Man tidal wave. You'd think that like this would be the perfect time for Morbius to come out because people are already they got Spider-Man on the brain. They're in Spider-Man mode. By the time April rolls around, people are going to be on the riding the Batman wave. Which again, I guess that makes sense. He is a vampire, so maybe that's what they're hoping for.
Maybe it's just weird. Like I doubt I don't see how they could be worried about Scream overtaking them. Like it's a fucking superhero film. It's going to just naturally do better usually. And again, I doubt they were worried about Jackass Forever the week after, whenever that comes out. Like I doubt that was a worry. I'm not saying anything against that. Everyone knows how much I want to see that movie. And then if they were clearly obviously worried about the Batman, so that they didn't put it out near that's release date. So it's like I don't get it. Like I said, when films outside of the COVID thing, when films keep getting delayed, that's when I get worried. So I'm like, what is wrong with your movie that you cannot just fucking get it right and get it the fuck out?
Yeah, it shows a lack of faith in the product. And I mean, Morbius was always going to be a long shot success. I mean, the second they announced it, I'm like, I don't know if this warrants its own project. And the trailer is just, it looks interesting, but it looks pretty generic. They're slapping a PG-13 rating onto a vampire movie. So already you're like, this is going to be toned down so hard. It's just, I want it to be good, but I'm not holding my breath. And this just makes it worse.
Yeah. I'm like, that and like John Wick, I don't understand these delays. Like, why?
We'll see these films eventually, and then we'll be able to realize, like, oh, that's why.
Well, let's calm down. Hopefully John Wick will still be badass as fuck.
I got no qualms about John Wick 4 kicking ass, but Morbius, I'm 100% sure is going to let me down at this point.
Yeah, I'm losing more and more hope. I was actually getting kind of excited, like, okay, it's finally coming out. I can finally. So like being people, I'm wondering how the fuck Vulture's in this movie, even with I know the multiverse and stuff that just happened in No Way Home. But at the same time, this film was supposed to come out before all this shit. So it's like, how does Vulture factor into this movie now? How the fuck does whoever's version of Spider-Man that's graffiti on the fucking wall factor into this movie now? Like, how does all this shit factor in a movie that was playing stuff before No Way Home came out, but now No Way Home has come out, and now we know. So like, it's just there's a lot of questions going into this movie now.
Yeah, but it is Marvel, so I, as a geek, am contractually obligated to see it opening weekend. So I will be there.
I mean, I'll be there whenever they finally release the damn thing. But
Wes Anderson is adapting a Roald Dahl short story as his next project. The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar will be Anderson's new project for Netflix, and it will star Benedict Cumberbatch, Ralph Fiennes, Dev Patel, and Ben Kingsley so far. That is an epic cast. Have not heard of The Wonderful World of Henry Sugar, but last time Anderson touched Roald Dahl was Fantastic Mr. Fox, and that was great. So I'm sure this will be just as good.
Yeah. Was this part of the whole like massive deal that Netflix made to like adapt Roald Dahl stuff? Okay.
Yeah, this is the first of that bunch.
Oh, okay. I am still extraordinarily green on Anderson's work, Wes Anderson's work. I probably should say his full name, so it's like 3 or 4 different Andersons working in Hollywood.
Yeah.
But I'm so extremely what I have seen, I have really enjoyed. And I actually have nothing really against him and his style. I think it's a very unique style, and definitely his own voice. Definitely, it's his type of film. I think with that, knowing how his style is and what I have seen, I think it only makes me sense to have him do a Roald Dahl adaptation. Like he's probably the most fitting director for it.
Back when we were doing when we were going to do the French Dispatch on this show, and we got our dates mixed up and had to do Dune, I crammed all of Wes Anderson's work that I hadn't seen into about a week and a half, and I got to watch all of his films and got to see his progression as a filmmaker and all the stuff he's done. And I was very impressed. He's done some great work, so I'm looking forward to this. Rooney Mara is going to be playing iconic actress Audrey Hepburn in a new biopic from Apple Studios. The film will be directed by Luca Guadagnino, director of Call Me by Your Name and the Suspiria remake. And this just makes sense. Rooney Mara kind of looks exactly like Audrey Hepburn, so it's a good choice.
Yeah, I'm down. I've liked her a lot more since her very clearly not interested in being there, and I kind of get it. Take on Nancy in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Is that Rooney Mara?
Yes, it is.
Holy shit, I didn't know that.
I'll never let her live the fact that she was in that movie down. And that she didn't even try. She gave like the most boring fucking performance you could. Like
I saw the Elm Street remake one time and thought this is dog shit, and I haven't thought of it since. So forgive me for not knowing about that.
I guess I'll let it slide. You're with a massive horror movie loving friend right here, sir. But
are you about to defend the Elm Street remake? Is that what's about to happen?
Oh no, it's dog shit. It's absolute dog shit. The only thing I'll say is this. I liked Jackie Earle Haley. I'll say it. I know it's gonna ruffle some fucking fanboy feathers.
I know, right? Chill in the air just then. That was weird.
I know. He did good. I liked him in the role. His makeup was atrocious. I fucking hated the way they made him look. I liked him though. And I did like the idea of micro naps, whatever the fuck they called it, where like, if you were napping or not. Like a cool ideal. I just thought it was kind of executed poorly, but definitely a cool ideal for an Elm Street movie.
I don't remember any of that shit.
Yeah, I do. Don't worry, I can always add it to our new show.
Well, now we have the show's out, so we can now say like, yeah, Elm Street remake 100% will end up on Beyond the Bed at some point.
Oh yeah, it's definitely in there. But yeah, besides that, I hate that movie.
Well, Rooney Mara managed to come off the Elm Street remake and score 2 Oscar nominations for The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and Carol. So she's a heavy player now. She's married to Joaquin Phoenix, which has got to be the weirdest relationship in Hollywood. I can't imagine what they do. Like, what's date night at that household?
I don't know. I don't want to imagine. I don't want to imagine what goes further than date night. Let's not. I don't.
Oh boy.
No, what my big long tangent on that was that yeah, she's done a lot better since Nightmare on Elm Street remake. She's I really did like her in Dragon Tattoo. I'm actually still mad that we did not get there 2 films. I actually really like Fincher's Dragon Tattoo movie. And I liked her recently in Nightmare Alley. She was in that. I really liked her role in that. She wasn't unfortunately, she wasn't huge. I was actually hoping to see more of her. That's how much I actually enjoyed her. But she did good at what she had. Definitely.
Cool. You ever seen Carol?
No, I haven't.
Pretty good. Her and Kate Blanchett start sleeping together in the 50s when lesbians were not allowed to do that.
Okay, well, it's on my list now.
Yeah, pretty good movie. Anyway, weirdly, Chris Evans is going to play Gene Kelly in a different biopic. Skyfall screenwriter John Logan is going to be penning the screenplay, and Chris Evans apparently has the idea of some kid has an imaginary friendship with Gene Kelly in the 50s while Singing in the Rain is being filmed or something like that. So he's going to play Gene Kelly.
I'll say weird idea, but I like Chris Evans, so I'm down.
Yeah, and Gene Kelly, I wonder how they're going to approach it because he was kind of a tyrannical monster when it came to filmmaking. Like he, made Debbie Reynolds practice her steps so much on Singing in the Rain that her feet bled, and she was like, she hated it. Fred Astaire had to be like, "Why are you crying, little girl?" It was a whole fucking thing. But I hope they don't just paint him as a saint.
I mean, I hope not either, but we'll see. Like I said, I like Chris Evans a lot. Has obviously Captain America. His spoiler for those who haven't seen Free Guy yet, but his little cameo in Free Guy was fucking hilarious.
What the shit?
Yeah,
that was great.
So I like him, and if the movie looks good enough, I'll check it out for sure.
Yeah. And final casting news: Vanessa Kirby has replaced Jodie Comer in Ridley Scott's upcoming Napoleon Bonaparte biopic, Kit Bag. Weird title. I hope we understand. I hope we find out what that means. Joaquin Phoenix stars as Napoleon, the Emperor of France. Comer was forced to exit the project due to scheduling conflicts, and Vanessa Kirby has replaced her. Kirby coming hot off an Oscar nomination for her role in Pieces of a Woman, which was the first film this podcast covered last year. And yeah, bring it on. Joaquin's going to play fucking Napoleon. I'm on board for this.
So I'm on board for this. Was Kirby the one that was in Hobbs and Shaw?
Yes.
Jason Statham's sister?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she was hot. Yeah. Sorry, digressing. No, I liked her, and I liked her a lot in Hobbs and Shaw. I think that's actually the only thing I've seen her in, as far as I know off the top of my head. So
did you see Mission Impossible Fallout?
I did. Was she? Oh my god, that's right.
Yeah, she was in that.
And I did like her a lot in that. I remember thinking I want more of this character. Honestly though, I think that with a lot of the Mission Impossible films, I'm like, give me less Tom Cruise, our main character, and give me more of the other characters.
Yeah, that's I hate half that franchise. I like 4 through 6. 1 through 3 I could really do without. But
it gets it's a weird franchise that it got better as it went along. Because to me, yeah, I'm with you. 1 was okay. I didn't hate it, but I was like, it's okay. 2, same thing. I was like, it's okay. 3, I was like, I like this one a little bit better. Okay. It had a lot to do with Philip Seymour Hoffman's villainous role. And I thought Abrams actually brought a lot of energy into the fucking movie for once. So I remember going okay, this is better. And then something clicked with 4 onward, but I was just like, okay, now I'm really enjoying these movies. Now they're good. Okay.
Well, I think some had to do with the villain. I mean, you've got, 4 Michael Nyqvist, 5 Sean Harris, and then 6 is fucking Henry Cavill. All 3 of those were great. The stunts went out the fucking window. Crazy shit started happening. Tom Cruise apparently has a death wish. And I don't know what, Brad Bird's direction on 4 and then Chris McQuarrie on 5 and 6. Just really good, I think. Which is weird because you've got Brian De Palma, John Woo, and J.J. Abrams on the first 3. And you'd think that makes sense. So
yeah, it's literally been nothing but great directors for this franchise.
I have no clue what makes 4 through 6 work. Because the first one I think it's okay. The second one I think is terrible. I don't even remember it. And 3, Philip Seymour Hoffman saves that movie. His character is so fucking evil. It just works. That's a franchise we might want to explore a bit on Filmgazm at some point.
I'd be down to explore that one. That is a Tom Cruise movie series I actually really do like. And I'm not like I said, separate art from artiste. He books living show. I mean, everyone knows his recent attitude towards military personnel really pissed me off. Yeah. But I like a decent amount of his movies. But I do think it's funny that a lot of times, especially these recent Mission Impossibles, I'll be watching and going, can I have more Henry Cavill, less Tom Cruise? Because that's what I'm enjoying right now. I do think it's interesting that it looks like McCreary is the only one that can direct him now, because he's doing all of his movies, it seems.
Yeah, I think he's within 2 to 3 years of just giving up acting entirely and becoming the complete face and head of Scientology. So I think he's just biding time till David Miscavige is ready to hand over the giant gold medallion.
He has to, because I don't know anything else he's doing outside of fucking the new Top Gun I don't care for, in these next few Mission Impossible films.
Yeah. At one point, Tom Cruise was a dedicated character actor who had, he's a 3-time Oscar nominee, and then something changed. I'd love to kind of dig into that and find out what changed. What is the moment where Tom Cruise became, the psycho, a laughing, in that documentary? Have you ever heard that laugh? That's the laugh of a sadist.
I have not heard that laugh. I just want to see like the evolution of a man that was actually like like I said, dedicated actor, was jumping on couches, disrespecting the military, going so wrong about his whole mask thing. It's like I get, because I remember hearing about that on set where I'm like, dude, I get it. You want people to be safe, but you are approaching this so fucking wrong. I was like, yelling and berating the crew is not what's going to help at all.
Yeah, I don't know. Tom Cruise, I've got very mixed feelings about. As a human being, I detest him, but as an actor, I really like his work. So
yeah, again, it's like I said, separate art from artist. Like I like his movies, but him, I think he's a horrendous human being. I won't be sad when I see his obituary. I'll put it like that.
Fuck.
Yeah. So,
Damn. That was rough.
Yeah. It won't be like Betty Wright where I need a moment.
Well, that's a good transition into some sad news for cinephiles.
Hey, look at that. I'm good at segues.
If you listen to Oscar Sunday, you'll know that Austin and I already said a little bit about these two titans of film, but we wanted them to be properly eulogized on this show as well. Oscar-nominated director Peter Bogdanovich has died at 82 years old from natural causes. He was nominated twice, once for director and once for screenplay, both for The Last Picture Show. Fantastic movie. One of the best coming-of-age films I've ever seen. If you ever want to see a bunch of 50s teenagers, fuck, like the days, like the world's going to end, that's your movie.
You want to see that?
Well, it's just weird because like every 50s movie I've ever, or like movie that deals with that time period treats kids like they're some, Leave It to Beaver magic world where people don't have sex, when in reality they're teenagers and everyone's fucking everybody else. And I like that the movie actually treated them like people.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter what decade it was. You become a teenager, your fucking hormones kick in, you want to fuck. Like, it's that simple. It is that simple. 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s now. Yeah.
And it is on top of that, it's also a very well-written character study and a really good movie. He also directed Paper Moon, Mask, and Texasville, among others. He also played Dr. Elliot Kupferberg on The Sopranos, recently appeared in It Chapter 2 and The Other Side of the Wind. He's just been kind of a staple of indie film since the 70s, and it was a real bummer to see him go. Rest in peace, Peter Bogdanovich.
Rest in peace. Unfortunately, not as I haven't seen a lot of his work, but I recognized the name immediately when I saw it. I was like, oh, even I kind of went, oh my god, because I mean I've seen it, but I'm very aware of him. I'm very aware of his status, and yeah, it's definitely it's a loss, big time.
He has a cameo in It 2 as the director of a movie that's being made. I think it's Bill's novels being made into a movie.
I remember that. Yeah,
he's the director of that movie.
That's right. I do. Okay, so that I've seen that because I've seen It Chapter 2. But yeah, no, huge loss. Even if I'm not as familiar with his work.
In The Sopranos, he plays the therapist of Tony Soprano's therapist because she is so goddamn stressed from dealing with Tony Soprano that she needs therapy. So she goes to Dr. Peter Bogdanovich and is like, he's a killer, he's a maniac, but I can't stop treating him. It would be wrong. And every time Dr. Elliot's like, you gotta let go of this. You gotta let him go. He's ruining your life. She's like, I can't. I'm a doctor. It's a great show. Oh boy. And then that was not the only bad news we got this week. What the fuck?
Unfortunately not.
Oscar-winning actor Sidney Poitier has died at 94 years old. Poitier won his Oscar for his performance in 1963's Lilies of the Field, becoming the first Black man to win Best Actor. He was previously nominated for 1958's The Defiant Ones, where he became the first Black man to be nominated for Best Actor. And by the way, another Black man wouldn't win Best Actor until 2001 when Denzel won it for Training Day. So
yeah, I read that. I was like, no fucking way. Jesus.
Unreal. Poitier also won an honorary award in 2002 for his contributions to film. Some of his most well-known work includes Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, A Raisin in the Sun, Blackboard Jungle, and In the Heat of the Night as Detective Virgil Tibbs. And what a goddamn trailblazer this man was. I talked about this at length on Oscar Sunday. This man was respected, was revered. He represented so much to the industry. And it's a real downer to see him go, but what a life, what a legacy.
Oh yeah, man. I saw this and even I was like, holy shit. because I grew up, my mom was a big fan of his when I was growing up. So I was introduced to films like In the Heat of the Night. I can't remember it, but I want to say it's like he visits a monastery or something. I think there's
That
something
might be Lilies of the Field.
that might be what I'm thinking. I remember something like that. I remember she loved that movie, and she loved him. She thought he was one of the best actors to ever walk on the face of the earth. And obviously as a kid, it didn't hit me, right? Because I was a kid, I was just like, oh, watching this fucking drama film. But as I got older, right, and I got more film and like all this stuff, I got a lot more respect. Gained a lot more respect from him. And realized like what he's accomplished is just it's unmatched. It is absolutely unmatched. Like you said, he got the fucking nomination. I think he got the win, right, for best actor.
Yeah, Lilies of the Field, the first black man to win best actor.
Yeah, like no one's gonna take that from him. Even in death, no one's taking that from him. That's fucking awesome. The dude he was, like Barry White, right? He was an icon. He was a trailblazer. He was just a legend of cinema. And they pointed out on IGN when I was reading it, one of the last ones to come from that golden age of Hollywood. So I mean, that we're losing, some real icons, some real of cinema. It's sad, it's depressing, but
I mean,
a hell of a legacy he left behind.
Yeah. Last year we lost, Kirk Douglas and Olivia de Havilland. Like there's so few people from that generation still alive, and it's just a shame to keep losing icons like that. And Sidney Poitier was one of the greats. Rest in peace.
Yeah. Rest in peace, big time.
So before we get into the ranking, I believe there's a film you wanted to spotlight briefly. So why don't you tell us a bit about For the Sake of Vicious?
Yes. So we have talked, I think, outside of recording about highlighting Shudder more. Again, that I know we kind of talked about, go back to like, obviously you guys know about like the new Scream coming out next weekend, but there's a lot of indie films that come out on the streaming services. Shudder especially is big about putting these out that don't get talked about much, that we are going to try to hit up more. I'm taking it very seriously. I'm going to try to watch what I can. Ideally, everything they put out in the month, but obviously life happens. With that said, I was able to watch for this movie called For the Sake of Vicious, about this father whose daughter was raped. They never specify if she dies or not, which is really weird to me. But he captures the man he believes does it and starts to torture him, and then takes him over to this nurse's house, which we found out later the nurse was the one that took care of his daughter post, rape. And it becomes eventually like a survival story as his guys find out and start to invade the house, and they have to fight back. Sorry, my dog made a weird noise. It freaked me out for a second. But it was okay. I wasn't really expecting much. It's the first Shudder exclusive of the year, so I know they're not like putting out their best right now. But again, to go with like trying to see stuff, I watched it. The biggest thing for me that held it back was its story. It did the scene where it dropped you right in the middle of the story and then doled out the information as the runtime went along. That's great in some films and works, like in a case like Memento, right? That works for that film because there was enough story to tell to keep you going. The story was strong. Not the case here. It's a simple, someone you love got raped, he wants revenge, things get out of control. Not something you need to just like dole out your information as you go. Just tell me your shit from the beginning and go from there. So that didn't really work for me, which in turn made for a really weak story. What did work, what it had in spades once it got going, was the gore and fight scenes. Me and Josh watched this together, and we were both cringing on the gore. Like, dear Lord, from the sound effects to what they show you, it's fucking brutal. Like some of the shit they do, like a hammer in a dude's face, and I'm not talking like the thing you hammer with, the thing you use to remove the nails, fucking gets embedded into like a dude's eye. Like, oh boy, it I will applaud them on their gore effects. Like, holy fuck. And also their fight scenes. For a film, it's so weird to me, coming off seeing the fucking Matrix Resurrections, a big budget Hollywood production, had some of the worst fight scenes I ever seen in film. I know I watched this small, independent, low budget, do whatever you can to get made film, and some of the best fight scenes. Their scenes were dirty, they were realistic. It felt like I was watching what would happen with people in a situation like this. And I definitely I will applaud them for that with their fight scenes. The way they were filming it and like the hallways and stuff, it was tight and you were like prolonged and you're really seeing people get hurt. Like it was really good in that regard. I just wish that like in those two aspects it carried over into the story. So with that said, if you're looking for something easy to watch and you want it and you can stomach gore, by all means, check it out. But for me, I ended up giving it a 6 out of 10. It was an okay time.
I don't really have a problem with Shudder. You know, I've watched a few of their original outputs and they've been pretty decent. It's just the source I use to schedule the releases of this year for this show doesn't include Shudder. I don't know why, but it's reliable for everything else. So I don't really catch them. But I'm hoping this year, I'm going to go pretty much on your recommendations. I would like to watch some. I probably won't watch this one, considering the 6 isn't really the best review. But, going forward, I'm sure Shudder will have some cool shit this year.
Oh, yeah. And like I said, I'm sure they definitely have stuff up their sleeve. It's just like, I'm sure this was a movie they're like, hey, this is a good weekend to put it out. It's January. I get it. Like I said, and I know what you're talking about. We talked about that where what you use doesn't populate Shudder. For me, I know what I use. I didn't see. I know I see the screenshot, so I follow them on their social, and then they'll put up exactly what they're doing each month ahead of time. So like you'll see the full list each month from them directly ahead of time.
Nice. So without further ado, we've prepared a ranking of Wes Craven's films from worst to best. We've excluded 3 films: Deadly Friend, My Soul to Take, and The Hills Have Eyes Part 2. For one, we'd have to pay for them. And 2, they're universally despised. So there really wasn't any point. I'm sure one day we'll talk about these films on Filmgazm or Beyond the Bad, but not today. But that still leaves us 16 films to discuss today. And we did kind of, we watched different stuff for this. I went a little overboard, I'll admit that. And I have 16 on my list, and Caleb, I believe you have 11.
Yeah, 11. Of that, it was like 9. Yeah, 9 I had already seen, then 2 more I wanted to watch anyway. So yeah. I was able to bump it up to 11.
I wanted to watch so many because I was I didn't realize till we had started to do this how unfamiliar I was with Craven's catalog. I've seen all the Scream movies. I've seen Elm Street. But some of his classics I'd never watched, and some of his cult films I hadn't really watched. So I wanted to use this as an opportunity to kind of, get a little bit more cred, if you will. And from what I watched, I enjoyed. And there's one film on my list that is not a horror movie. It's the only non-horror film he ever did, which we'll talk about in a bit.
Yeah, and not for lack of like him not wanting to ever go back and do something outside of horror. The reception in the film's what deterred him from being able to ever get out of horror again after that. Which
is a shame. It still was up for 2 Oscars. So, critically it did well, but financially it did not. It's a shame. So the way we're going to do it, I'll do my 16 to 12 first. And then once I get to 11, Caleb will jump in and we'll go back and forth with our personal rankings of Wes Craven's films.
Mm-hmm.
So this will be fun because there's some shit in here, but there are also some masterpieces in here.
Very diverse director, if you will.
So number 16 for me, and I watched everything but 3, not counting that porno he did in 75 under an assumed name. We couldn't get that either. Yeah.
Forgot about that.
Yep, I wasn't going to track down a porno from 75 and just watch it for the sake of the show. I wasn't going to do that.
I mean, I would have been committed enough to do that.
I don't want to see Wes Craven's porno. I just don't. I know he's not in it, but he still did it. And how am I going to find that? Let's be honest.
There's ways.
Anyway, excluding the porno and those 3 films we mentioned, number 16 is 1981's Deadly Blessing. Whew, what a piece of shit. Have you seen Deadly Blessing?
I have not seen this one. I usually mix it up with Deadly Friend because the Deadly Friend's famous for the throws the basketball at someone and it fucking hits their head and their head explodes. I always fuck up because the titles are almost similar minus one goddamn word and mix those two up. Besides that, no, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, when I looked up the filmography, I assumed these two were connected, and they aren't in any way. Deadly Blessing is a film about a woman who lives next door to a hyper-religious compound known as the Hittites, run by Ernest Borgnine, who really needed the money in the 80s. And her husband used to be in the Hittites. It's Ernest Borgnine's son. And then one day, he just dies. The husband's dead. And she doesn't know why. And all of a sudden, people around her start getting killed under mysterious circumstances. And she believes the Hittites are behind it. And they keep calling her an incubus, which is a glaring error because female demons are called a succubus. And that really bugged me. But, I mean, if you're going to write your movie, do your research. Craven wrote this with two other guys, and I blame them for this movie being kind of a disaster. It's got a young, super hot Sharon Stone, though, so that's a plus. But that's kind of the only plus. This movie's boring as shit. The kills are so bland. And coming off of the Craven's first two films, I had pretty high expectations for kills.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about those first two, respectively, because I saw your reviews and I was like, fuck yeah, he liked them quite a bit. It's
gonna be a bit till we get to those. They're further down.
Oh, same with mine. So.
But yeah, Deadly Blessing, I gave that a 3. That movie was abysmal, boring, ends out of the blue with some horse shit that doesn't make sense. And I didn't know what they were trying to do with this movie. There's so many different ideas that don't mesh. And ultimately it's just a mess. So number 16, Deadly Blessing.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't got much to say. Not because I haven't seen it, but like, because even some of the films I know you're going to mention, because I kept up with what you're reviewing on the site. I at least know like a good amount because, as you know, I'm a massive Wes Craven fan. So I just don't know a lot about this film. I have heard it's terrible from a lot of people.
Are you saying that I have seen more Wes Craven films than you have?
Yeah, but I've also seen everything I've seen has been good.
Wow, I've seen more than you. I can say that now. That's nice. That's nice to have.
Okay. Good for you, buddy.
I can tell in your eyes this is killing you so hard.
No, because I'm not going to watch Deadly Blessing anytime soon.
Well, at least I have something to say about it. Not great things to say, but something.
Or Cursed anytime soon. So
speaking of, number 15, Cursed.
There you go.
Holy shit. You'd think that the studio would have some faith in a guy who has delivered consistently decent horror work over the span of 30 years at that point. But Weinsteins, in their infinite wisdom, kept taking little bits away from Cursed. And this film ended up being a husk of what Craven intended. And I mean, you put Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson back together on a werewolf movie. Yeah, sign me up. That sounds great.
Oh, I'm sure the original script for this movie was fucking awesome as shit.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it took them like 3 years to get this thing done. By the time it was done, the fucking Late Show with Craig Kilborn was like, had been canceled. And that plays a prominent role in the film. Poor Craig Kilborn. He kept getting replaced by better comedians.
Yeah, this film is I've been kind of staying away from this because a part of me is really trying to wait till they hopefully, if someone like, and Josh actually brought this one up as well, if hopefully someone like Scream Factory gets their hands on this and finds the footage that was cut and can assimilate to like a Craven cut. Until then I'm really trying to hold off on seeing this because no, you're right. It's why like it's one of the reasons I'm glad the Weinstein Company fucking is finally gone. Because yeah, you have a director who has been giving you quality for decades now. This is fresh off the fucking Scream series, which was a huge hit. Again, Williamson, who he worked with before on the first two Scream movies that were both hits, coming back. And yet, because it's the Weinsteins, because he couldn't just let a director do their job, They had to fucking have their say. They had to have their input. And if you're Harvey, you had to have your way with women, apparently. Yeah. That they just couldn't leave the fucking film alone, or these guys alone. It's they're fucking obviously Harvey is way more disgusting, obviously. But
well, I mean, Bob knew his brother was raping women in Hollywood and didn't do anything about it, so I hold him responsible too.
yeah, that's true too. You make a fair point. So it's just like it. I'm glad those two are done. I am fucking glad they're done. Yeah. For two reasons now. Before I knew what the fuck Harvey was doing, it was because I just did not like them as producers. But now it's like, oh yeah, thank God we got that monster out of Hollywood.
Well, Cursed, it's weird because the IMDb synopsis is completely inaccurate, and I had to make up my own.
Why? Because I feel like that synopsis has probably be tied to like a different draft of that script.
Yeah. Christina Ricci and Jesse Eisenberg are siblings who hate each other and have no chemistry whatsoever. They hit a deer, ram into another woman, Shannon Elizabeth, who is then attacked by a werewolf, eaten alive, and Christina and Jesse are bitten by said werewolf and become like weird fucking superheroes. Like nothing really happens to Christina Ricci because she keeps suppressing it, but Jesse Eisenberg like kicks his bully's ass, and then the bully realizes that he's actually gay, and he becomes like best friends with Jesse Eisenberg. I found that more outlandish than everything else about this movie. Like, just because you're gay doesn't forgive like years of ass kickings.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. And then,
I was going to say, I know Krueger has gone on record to say numerous times that like the original script was great, but like what they filmed became such a husk of what it was supposed to be.
Yeah. And it's so predictable, and it's so obvious who the bad guy is from the moment the movie starts. Michael Rosenbaum is randomly in this movie, uncredited with hair during the run of Smallville. I got so many questions, and I love werewolf movies, and this was shit. It even got Rick Baker to do the effects, the King of Werewolves, and yeah, this was such a disappointment. But I don't blame Wes Craven at all. I blame everyone who tore his movie apart.
I blame the Weinsteins, literally the two people to blame for this movie.
And those are the only two films on my ranking I don't like. The rest of them I do like. Number 14, Shocker. What a weird movie. Shocker. Mitch Pileggi is one of my favorite character actors. I love the X-Files. I love seeing him unhinged like this. Horace Pinker could have been a great horror icon. And that's what Craven was trying to do. He wanted another franchise after Elm Street success. And there was potential here. I just think there's so many weird, unnecessary things, like the kid being able to like project himself into the future, and the final fight in TV land and all that. Like so much could have been trimmed from this movie to make it more compact. But overall, it isn't bad, I don't think.
Yeah, I'll have more to say when I get to that one. That was actually one of the two I watched. So I heard so much about this, but like I'll get more into it. But best way to describe it for now, before I go into more details, that it felt like a film. I'm like you. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. That it was like everything. It was like first draft script. Nothing got cut. Every idea someone had got thrown into it, and they shot all of it without bothering to like trim anything down. That's what it felt like.
Big time. Like, why is his girlfriend's ghost just hanging around? So many questions. But I thought Mitch Pileggi pretty much saved the movie. And then there's another movie I watched that he pops up in, and I was like, hey, it's Mitch Pileggi. We'll get to that. Number 13, Scream 4. I'm not that big a fan of Scream 4.
Am I the only one that fucking loves Scream 4? God damn it.
I don't think it matches the quality of the first three. I don't vibe with Scream 4.
All All right, we have different opinions on this, so I'll just let you say your piece.
The
Damn it,
first,
I'm the only one that likes this goddamn movie. Apparently.
I'm sorry. The first three just have this kind of like, episodic feel to it, like they're all connected. The fourth one felt unnecessary, and I mean, it plays with remakes and reboots, and the irony of unnecessary sequels, and the meta jokes are always cute. But I just don't feel it with this one. I don't know what it is. It's too unbelievable. Like the franchise gets too meta almost. Like it's eating itself at this point. And I don't think it's a bad movie. I just think it's the worst Scream movie. That's my piece on Scream 4.
Well, that stung like a motherfucker. Let's move on. Wow.
Sorry.
Oh.
Number 12. The People Under the Stairs.
Bit low, but let's move on.
Well, the rest of his work is fucking awesome. Anyway, 12. I said after Cursed, I didn't hate the rest of these movies. It's all good. A 7 is still good. People Under the Stairs is such an odd movie. This kid and this dude played by Ving Rhames decide to rob this house that ends up being like a prison for wayward kids that this couple, who's actually siblings, have been kidnapping for years for reasons. And they have a daughter they stole who's like doesn't understand the outside world. It's weird and hard to explain. You kind of just have to watch this one. But it's funny at times. I think too funny at times. I think it fucks with the tone. I think I wanted this to be scarier. I didn't expect this to be a comedy. And I wanted it to be scarier. If it had been scarier, I think it would have been higher up. But there's moments that I think are just stupid. So, yeah.
Really stinging with these two films. Wow. Wow.
I assume you'll have more to say down the road on.
Yes, I will on that one as well.
All right, number 11, and then you get to play in the sandbox. Number 11 is a movie I fully expected to hate, but I don't know what it was, but I didn't hate it. Vampire in Brooklyn.
I haven't seen this one, so it's all you.
This movie has a 4.6 on IMDb and I think a 15% or possibly 14% on Rotten Tomatoes. This movie was panned to hell. Everyone hated this. And I don't know why. Like the tonal problem that People Under the Stairs had fucking worked with Vampire in Brooklyn. You have Eddie Murphy and Wes Craven doing their best together. You get a great horror comedy that I think gets a bad rap. Eddie Murphy is a vampire named Maximilian who comes to Brooklyn looking for his mate, who is a half human, half vampire woman who may not know what she is. And he finds her in a cop named Rita, played by Angela Bassett. And the whole movie is him seducing her while her partner, who's actually in love with her, is trying to save her. Eddie Murphy's Ghoul is this fuck up he saves from a gangland execution and like turns into like a Renfield type who's rotting the whole movie, and he's hilarious. Like shit will just fall off randomly and he'll be like, what was it? That's my fucking eye. Like things like that. It's really funny. He keeps talking back to Maximilian and he keeps going like, shut up, just shut up. He just wants like a quiet ghoul. It's funny. Eddie Murphy's funny. He does this bit with it where he's a preacher that was hilarious. He's like talking about how sinning is actually good for you. I liked it, and I'm very much alone on this island. I know that. I don't care. I like what I like. Something about this movie just made me like it. So, Vampire in Brooklyn.
Okay. I haven't seen it, so I can't question. Number 11 is what is undoubtedly the worst Scream film, and even I'm a defender of it, and that's Scream 3. Mainly because this one to me was the one they felt like they were stretching thin. This was the one where the meta jokes became a little too on the nose because it was like directly in Hollywood, directly happening, all that stuff. And then it implored the long lost sibling cliche for the reveal. So to me, it has like the weakest reveal of the Scream like franchise on who the killer is. It's just evident to me that like while Craven still does a great job directing, this is not a Kevin Williamson script in any way, shape, or form, and it shows to me in this one hard. So yeah, for me, Scream 3. I'll go on to we do have our upcoming Filmgazm episode on Scream 3 anyway, so I'll go on up then. But this has always been like my personal least favorite of the film. With that said, I'm like you, everything on mine I like. So everything on my list I like. I do like this film. I do enjoy it. It's just for me, it's my least favorite.
Fair enough. My number 10 is Scream 3. So I'll go into my little bit. I do want to save my thoughts because we do have a Filmgazm this week on Scream 3. It's just I like the first three, I think, fit together better. 4 seems tacked on unnecessarily. 3, I like the twist.
It was a perfect epilogue. Oh God, just go on.
I like the twist. I like the idea of them making a stab movie based on all this, and there's a real killer involved. I think killing Liev Schreiber at the beginning of this was a great misdirection and like a great like no one's safe kind of vibe, which was kind of bullshit because everyone made it, but still.
I didn't really get the no one safe vibe from that because I never doubted that Liev Schreiber would. I never was concerned with him living through a Scream movie.
I liked his character from the beginning, just an asshole trying to cash in on a big mistake. But yeah, I like Scream 3. I don't know what else to say. I like it.
I don't know how you can think that fucking twist.
I like the bit with Carrie Fisher where she talks about how she slept with George Lucas and still didn't get the role of Princess Leia. I thought that was funny.
That twist was not that great though. Long lost sibling cliches never work.
What killers like previous killer's mom is okay. That makes sense. And then like Sidney's cousin.
Yeah,
that felt
that
more forced than this.
No, a sibling we never heard about, much like if they tried pulling an F9, never works for me.
Well, Sidney didn't know about it either. That's the thing. It's not like Dom didn't know Jacob existed. He just never talked about him. Sidney never knew about Roman. That was his name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. She didn't know. Her mom was a hoe. That's the whole point of this franchise. So it all comes from.
But I just felt like 3 was just, they were trying to hammer that home way too much in 3.
Jay and Silent Bob pop in, and I thought that was cute.
That was still kind of too much, but cameo for me.
3 has just enough stupid shit to keep me invested in this franchise that I like, but ultimately, do we need? I'll just say that.
4 was better, but moving on.
I don't care. 10. I didn't make these movies. I don't care.
Number 10 in my ranking is Shocker, like I talked about earlier. Like you, I don't hate it, but I don't love it. It, like I said, it's like they threw every idea that was thrown at them. No one said no to, like at all, and they just put it in the film. A good chunk of this film, I spent kind of going like, "What the fuck? Like, what's going on? Like, is he related to Pinker? Is he not?" They keep fucking bringing it up like it's important, but then never clarifying.
That was odd.
Yeah. They never at any point, and look, I know we said 1,000. I don't want that much explanation in horror films, but there's like zero explanation for why this ordinary serial killer can just jump into fucking TV land and attack people. Like it just kind of happens and you go with it. And I'm like, okay. The whole like climactic end scene was kind of underwhelming to me. As much as they fucking went for it, it was just like, what the hell's going on? The biggest thing, I'm like you, the biggest thing holding us together, one is the fact that like they kind of fully commit to going all in. So I'll give them that much credit. I really will. Like you, Mitch Pileggi holds it together. Like he is fucking lights out as a psychotic serial killer to the point that like I do think the middle section when he kind of disappears for a little bit and is possessing people, kind of lacks for me because it's not him. And I'm like, no, he was what was keeping me entertained, and now he's kind of gone. When he comes back, to me, it picks back up.
Yeah, I agree on all counts. It is weird that they mention like he might be his dad, but then it never comes up again until the end and still never clarified.
Right, because they even talk about like how the parents he had were his foster parents. So it's like it's already established that those aren't even his actual. So it's like, okay, well, come on, movie, like,
Oh boy. Yeah. Shocker's weird, but it's got its moments, and I don't think it's terrible.
no, I would pick up the Scream Factory release to have this. I would. I'd watch it again.
If it was discounted, I might too. Number 9 was the first Wes Craven film that we ever did on the Filmgazm podcast, 1988's The Serpent and the Rainbow.
Wait,
not a lot of.
You said number 9?
Yes.
Oh, that's my number 9 too. So.
Oh, great. Yeah, this movie's freaky. Voodoo movies are disturbing because there's something, almost too real about voodoo. I don't know what it is. It's hard to explain, but just feels like that shit could get you. And this movie's based on a like semi-true book about somebody's experience in Haiti dealing with, the Tonton Macoute and voodoo at the same time. And that's just fucking creepy. There's that scene where Bill Pullman gets a fucking nail through the scrot. I mean, yeah, this is a rough watch at times.
Yeah, you know what? I think I like the sense of isolation that Craven builds throughout the film. Like, as he's like, especially when Bill Pullman, I think he goes back to the island after he leaves the first time. That kind of like weird opening that's barely explained. And he goes back. As Craven does such a good job of like slowly ratcheting up the tension and the sense of isolation as it's becoming more apparent that he's not getting off this island right now. Like, he's a pawn in this dude's fucking game the moment he started asking questions about the bad guy. Like, he's much more into it than he even knows, and that Craven does a really good job of building that.
This, I agree. I love the dialogue in this movie, from like, "Don't bury me, I'm not dead," which is great. But also the torture scene when Bill Pullman straight up says, like, "What do you want?" And the guy just goes right to his ear and goes, "I want to hear you scream," and just nails him right. Like, God damn it. I get
that hurt. That hurt. I saw that. I was like, oh God, that hurts.
Yeah, this movie is vicious. And when I found it used on DVD and immediately bought it for the show, and I'm glad I did because we had a really fun time doing that episode. That was back when we were doing bonuses, and our bonus was Live and Let Die, the Bond film that deals with voodoo. So we had a good week on the show that week. Yeah, good place to start on the show for Craven.
Oh yeah, definitely to me like an out there when I started doing like what people really expect.
Oh yeah. So that was your 9 with Serpent and Rainbow too?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. My 8 is his one drama, 1999's Music of the Heart. Did not expect to like this, but what a touching film. I found myself smiling throughout. It's a biopic of a woman named Roberta Gaspari, who was a music teacher who developed a program that helped thousands of Harlem children learn how to play the violin. And this is her story. It's Meryl Streep, Angela Bassett, Aidan Quinn, Cloris Leachman. It's a good cast. It was up for 2 Oscars. It showed his range as a filmmaker, and I really wish this had been a success. So Craven he might have been a little bit more pushed to do stuff outside of horror, because he definitely had the range to do so. It's a very touching movie. Streep does an amazing job. The violin performances are fantastic. There's moments of like really great human decency that just make you smile. And I know you won't watch it, but you should. I rented it on Vudu. We've got it for the next 20 hours if you're inclined.
Maybe. No, I'll say this much, like, and it doesn't surprise me that like people who have seen it would like this movie, because I think he became known as a horror director, but to me a lot of people really did not ever give him enough credit for how good he was with characters. A lot of his movies, whether it be Scream, Serpent Rainbow, People Upstairs, Nightmare on Elm Street, they're all filled with great characters, and he always knew how to bring the best performance-wise out of his actors and give you characters to root for and get interested in. He was always good at that.
Yeah, well, hear this. Meryl Streep had never seen one of his films when she signed on for this. She didn't like horror movies. They freaked her out. So she hadn't seen anything Wes Craven had done. Her son was a huge Wes Craven fan and convinced her that Craven was a great filmmaker who was fantastic with characters and storytelling. And that's what inspired her to sign on to this film. And they had a great working relationship. They worked really well together.
Yeah, because he was a fucking good director. He was a good person. He's a good dude. It does not surprise me that he would be able to ace something outside of horror. Like, yeah, he knew how to scare people, but he knew how to get you invested. He knew how to give you something to root for.
Yes, he did. And this is, telling a true story like this, one that you wouldn't necessarily think is worth a movie, but very inspiring, very touching. So definitely a good movie. Deserved a place in my top 10.
That's good. My number 8 is going back to horror, obviously. And it was when he decided to return to a franchise that he got kind of bitter about with Mr. Lynch, but he came back around with Wes Craven's New Nightmare. For a lot of people, like the prototype to what would eventually become Scream, as a lot of the elements are in there. Sure, if you will, but on its own merit, this is just a really fucking good Nightmare on Elm Street film. Having, it made Freddy scary again after very much comical turn in a lot of the later sequels. So having him be scary and terrifying again was good. Having people like Heather Langenkamp and John Saxon come back and actually be playing themselves, like a version of themselves. But as the film progresses, they start to actually like revert back to their original roles, which to me is just really smart and clever. The kills in this film are brutal. Again, going back to making Freddy scary, those kills are fucking something in this. This has always been one of my more favorite entries he's in the Nightmare series. And yeah, I mean, this was like the final one and the original one before they fucking reviewed it. And what a hell of a way to end the series on this one, as far as I'm concerned.
I thought Freddy versus Jason was the end.
Oh yeah, shit, Freddy versus Jason.
But still, your point stands. New Nightmares.
As far as like before they did the crossover and the remake and all that stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, I'll have more to say in a bit. My number 7 is a film that I don't think was marketed all that well, but still ended up being a very cool and inventive horror film, 2005's Red Eye. The trailer made this look like it was like Demons on a Plane, which I thought was dumb because it's about a terrorist. And it's just a very neat movie about a guy who manipulates this woman into doing his bidding because he's a terrorist and he needs something done. And the movie's just so fucking tense. And Cillian Murphy and I think it was Rachel McAdams are so good together. And you just buy that relationship. He's such a great controlling maniac. And the finale in Brian Cox's house is so fucking great with like after he got stuck in the throat with the pen and he's like, breathily talking because he's like his esophagus is all fucked. It's cool. He turns into like an unkillable monster over the course of the movie. And I think it's a film that got kind of buried a little bit. A lot of people don't bring that up when they talk about Craven's, best movies, but I think it's a great watch.
Yeah, this one is. I haven't seen this one, but I've heard a lot of people like have the same opinion that you have, and that when it comes to like later Craven movies, that this one like is good ones. So it's been something I've been meaning to check out. I like the cast a lot. I mean, I like it. Said Rachel McAdams. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Cillian Murphy's character in the movie is Jackson Ripner.
Wow.
Yeah, they make a lot of jokes about it, but like, okay.
Yeah. I must say I love Cillian Murphy, so I mean, him as a bad guy, fuck yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so with that, my number 7 is part of what I like to call the 1-2 punch when he first started. This is being the 2 in the punch. And as the original, The Hills Have Eyes. So I saw this shit like ass backwards, right? Like I watched the remake first because of like my age and when it came out. And I fucking love, I know I've said before, we talked about Ray, when we talk about remakes, I love the remake. I finally got my hands on the Blu-ray on the Arrow release of this, along with Last House on the Left when I went to Crypticon with Josh, and yeah, I mean, I was kind of worried at first. Actually, wait, I lied. I saw this on Joe Bob for the first time. He did it for Thanksgiving. Um, so I watched it on there, and at first I was a little trepidatious because I know like the remake kind of follows it pretty fucking well, like almost plot point for plot point. But I gotta say, even with that, this film hits. Like there's especially with this and Last House, there's a rawness that I don't think was ever recaptured done again by Craven in these two films. In The Hills Have Eyes, there's just a sense of like I said, rawness, realness, brutality that he doesn't flinch from. He doesn't fucking make you look away. He's making you look at it. He's making you watch and in a way partake in the events passively because you're just watching, but you're still partaking. You're participating, and it like the way he uses that to take a look at Americana and at what we think of how we live in this fucking nice little world, but beyond it, just beyond it, or right next door, are some fucking terrible things, and you're seeing that in this movie. This movie very much explores like what we did testing nukes and how it turned regular families into fucking monsters. And it's just like I really do love this movie. I will admit, yes, I'm just again because I've seen it, I'm a little bit more preferable to the remake, but this film is good. This is a fucking great Wes Craven film.
I saw the remake first, also because of you.
Oh yeah, I showed you that real quick.
My mom told me that the only movie she's ever walked out of was the Hills Have Eyes remake.
Was it the trailer scene? Is that the moment?
Probably, yeah. Rape is hard to stomach in a movie, and Craven has quite a lot of rape throughout his catalog, which is a little fucked up, but it always made sense to the story. My number 6, I believe.
Yeah.
Scream 2. I like Scream 2. I think it's impressive that this was like written, developed all in like the span of a year, because they wanted to crank this shit out fast because Scream was such a hit. And it's good. It's fun. It's hard for me to specify specific Scream scenes because a lot of them kind of bleed together for me. But Scream 2, the bit where Sarah Michelle Gellar gets killed, I thought was funny because I'm like, she's usually able to handle this kind of stuff.
Well, that's what makes that scene so great. Is that it's hot off her Buffy success, so it's like, oh yeah, let's subvert it and have it where like she doesn't escape this.
But yeah, the first 2 Screams pretty on par. The whole opening at this theater with a sea of ghost face killers and then one who's the real killer taken out, Jada Pinkett Smith, was really cool. Yeah, I think the reveal of it being Billy's mom and what was his name?
Was it Mickey or Mikey?
The actor's name though.
Oh, Oliphant.
Oliphant. I called him Oliphant once on one of these shows because I just watched Lord of the Rings. I'm never going to live that shit down. But yeah, Scream 2, it kicks. And I'm glad because it's a good sequel. I like a good sequel.
Yeah, it is. My number 6 is going back to that 1-2 punch I mentioned earlier. It's the one in the punch. His debut, The Last House on the Left. Again, I saw this ass backwards. I actually saw the remake first. And as much as I actually like that remake, I will actually give it to the original. I think this one hits a little bit harder. Again, because of the rawness of it. The remake was very polished, very clean. The only part that was ever really fucking hard to watch was the very long rape scene in that movie. Whereas in this original, the whole film's hard to watch. The way he purposely filmed it as just like as dirty looking, as just lo-fi as he could. Mostly, I think, due to the fact that it was a very low budget film, but it works in its favor for the story he's telling. And the Krug and company are some of the most vile human beings in this movie. Like, dear God. And to me, this was like peak nihilism of Craven, because I don't know, in the remake, she survives, gets her parents, right? Not in the original. The original, the main characters you've been following, these two innocent girls, they die. Like, there is no hope. And to the point that when the parents do their revenge, right? Like, no, it's satisfying. Like, holy shit, is it satisfying in this movie? But even then, I love the way he ends it, in that they got their revenge, but there's an emptiness, because it's almost like they realize they've become those monsters that they killed just to get their revenge. Like, I love how he does that. He kind of flips and says, like, yeah, they got it. They got what they wanted. But did it really do anything? Like, they have to live with what they just fucking did now. And, the pursuit of a daughter. I know some people, obviously, usually it's people that can't even really fathom fucking films made before a certain goddamn time, love to point out the cops and the hokiness of the cops and the tunes. I like it in the sense that it's to me Wes Craven fucking with you and trying to make you go like, oh shit, what's going on here? Like, and again, this and Hills of Eyes really are like Craven exploring suburbia and Americana and like the monster next door type of thing. So it works to have like, here's these two buffoon cops just living their life, and right there, not too far from them, this horrific shit's happening. So for me, it works completely in context of what Craven's saying. But I know a lot of people have issues with that. But yeah, Last House on Left, one of my personal favorite Craven films.
My number 5 is The Last House on the Left. So let me say my bit here. This was the first time I'd ever seen this film. I knew a bit what to expect, but Christ, nothing can really prepare you for this. It's one of the most vile, vicious, unforgiving films I've ever watched. Specifically because Craven uses those cops and the folky music to lull you into a sense of familiarity. Like, oh, everything's going to work out. These two girls are going to get away. Bad guys are going to get arrested. Everything's going to be fine. But no, the cops miss the boat and they rape and murder these two women. And it is so vicious because you see pretty much everything. I think it's incredible that Craven was able to accomplish this on such a low budget with these like mostly non-actors who pulled it off in such a real way. I believed every second of this thing. It's frightening. It's horrific. It's disgusting. And then the ending is just so satisfying to watch these fuckers get theirs. I mean, I don't know why mom chose to bite the guy's dick off. I mean, surely there was a better way, but whatever.
But yeah, because I will say realistically, unless he was hard before the mouth got down there, she had to make that thing hard. There was some work that had to be done.
Oh God.
Just saying.
See, she could have just like grabbed some scissors, a knife, something. She had to use her mouth. It's just, whatever. Anyway, the ending kind of reminded me of Home Alone. I was like, the doorknob and the wet mat over the wire. It was like, this is some Kevin McAllister shit. But it's a vicious movie. Started a long and respectful career, and without it, we don't have everything else. So, definitely deserves a spot in my top 5.
Yeah, and just remember, it's only a movie. It's only a movie, as the tagline goes. My number 5 is what you should have had way up here as well. Scream 4.
Let's get this over with.
A great epilogue for Craven's era Scream. I want to say it like that because we got the new one coming out next week anyway. But as far as I'm concerned, it didn't feel necessary. It felt like Craven had something. Him and Wilson had a story they wanted to tell. You could tell they wanted to revisit these characters, and I thought they found a cool way to do it in what originally was supposed to be like a new trilogy, but ultimately to me it serves as a great epilogue. And for me, like I mentioned earlier, with his take on characters and stuff, those three people, Courtney Cox, Dave Arquette, and Nev Campbell, I love all three of their characters so much that I was more than willing to see what they were up to now. I love visiting their world and getting back with them. I personally like the twist a lot more better than fucking long lost brother shit. And to me, at some point out, this film's become a lot more timely on its critique on social media because of how so many people are nowadays with fucking social media and wanting to get famous on doing nothing, much like Chill kind of wanted to do in Scream 4. So it's kind of taken on a life of its own now because of its nice critique on social media. And I liked all the new cast members they had. Hannah Pansier's Kirby was awesome. She has that great scene where she's like naming off the fucking remakes. When he gets ready to ask her the question, he just fucking rolls with it. Like, she was awesome. I keep hoping that maybe they're hiding her from like the cast list in the new movie because I so badly want to see her in the new one. But I really like this film. I really enjoyed my time back with them. I will fucking defend this film to the people are way too harsh on this. It should be, as far as I'm concerned, harsh on Scream 3. But Scream 4, number 5, it's an awesome movie.
Cool. I'm glad you liked it.
How dare you, Phil? That's the worst one, you son of a bitch. How dare you?
Yeah, I dare.
How dare you? You're clearly not a Wes Craven fan.
I've seen more than you have.
Yeah, but you watch a lot more shit because of it, and you clearly don't know what a good Scream movie is.
A true Wes Craven fan would watch even his drama because he understands how good he is as a director.
A true Wes Craven fan would have watched all his movies. You did not.
Neither did you, asshole.
Exactly. So don't even go there.
God. Yeah, Scream 4, good for you. I don't think it's that great.
That's just because you're wrong and not just wrong. You're just
what
wrong.
I do like is my number 4 pick, The Hills Have Eyes. Did you know this was based on a true story?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Sawney Bean family in Scotland. Some psycho, Highlanders who killed and ate a bunch of tourists. It was like, what the fuck? So this one's pretty real. Vicious again. That trailer attack scene is unreal. Just the amount of blood and carnage and rape and violence that goes into that scene. That they literally take the baby to go eat it. I mean, what the fuck? It's hard to stomach. But the build up to that is so good. Just these guys hiding out in the background of the rocks, the death of the dog, grandpa getting set on fire. And you're just like, what the fuck is this? And then Doug going to get his baby. It's a good movie. You're invested from beginning to end. And, we've all been on road trips. We've all driven, hopefully, through desert and thought, if my engine breaks, I'm fucked. Like, there's nothing for hundreds of miles. Anything could be out here. It's freaky. And Craven really tapped into a primordial fear of ours with this movie.
Yeah. And also, he gave us Michael Berryman. I forgot to mention that earlier. Michael Berryman is in this movie.
Michael Berryman.
In his debut role. So, yeah. I just think his debut. Don't quote me on that, but I'm almost positive.
I was reading the trivia on this, and during the premiere of The Hills Have Eyes, some lady was openly complaining, like, this is garbage. This is not good at all. Like, this is horrible. And Michael Berryman was sitting right in front of her. And he said that he thought about turning around and loudly screaming in her face, like, you're goddamn right, this is horrible, to freak her out.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah. Funny shit. All right. Yeah, I really like The Hills Have Eyes. I'm glad I've finally seen it. It's one of those films that any horror buff should watch.
Yes, it's a great Craven film, right up there with Scream 4. But moving on to my 4 is one that, much like you, I watched very recently, as in for this ranking, because I've been dying to watch it. Unlike you, I fell a lot more in love with it, and that was The People Under the Stairs. I don't see what you're saying with the tonal consistent inconsistencies at all. I feel like you're horrendously wrong. That's fine though. This is to me, this film didn't need to be scary because this film was so much goddamn fun. Like it sets up what everything you need to know at the beginning, and the moment it gets to that house, it just goes. And I noted that when I was watching, I was like, God damn, this film just moves. Like the moment you're in the house. I remember when it got to the end, I'm like, oh shit, we're at the end already. Like I had such a fun fucking time with this movie. And I got really invested in Roach, and I got really fucking sad when we lost Roach. God damn did I like Roach. And it does have like I like how again it's kind of going back to the themes he explored to me in Last House and Hills of Ice with the American, family lifestyle. Like it's a couple that on the outside seems normal or trying to seem normal to everyone, right? But they're just hiding this fucked up thing where they got people, they're hiding in the fucking basement under the stairs, hence the title. They're this child that's very much implied towards me that they stole from someone as a baby to raise as their own child and then it's heavily, and it's not implied, it's said they're brother and sister, but it's heavily implied they are incestuous.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like heavily. She calls him daddy. She tells him to take her to bed or bedtime routine, and he comes out several times in a gimp suit, which is just so crazy that you just have to see it to believe it. Fun fact, the more than likely incestuous twins in this movie are the same people that are a husband and wife in Twin Peaks.
Yeah, Big Ed and Nadine. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, literally the same people. So kind of funny how that happened. But yeah, in Ving Rhames, it was cool seeing like a young Ving. I remember checking him out. I was like, holy shit, it's Ving Rhames. Like, cool seeing him in the movie. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this film. I see why like fans have like really clamored to this one. It's a fun fucking movie.
Yeah. Again, I didn't hate it. I didn't know it was going to be a comedy, and I was expecting a straight up horror movie. So
you knocked it because of your own expectations getting in the way?
Yeah, because I was like, this isn't as scary as I wanted it to be.
Wow.
And I didn't think the comedy meshed well with the horror. I didn't think it worked.
Sounds like a personal problem, not a movie problem.
Are you like Wes Craven's like nephew or something? What is this? Jesus Christ. My number 3.
There it is. I like the one I break you. All right, your number 3.
My number 3. We're getting into the nitty gritty, the classics of upon classics now. Number 3 is the film that most people would argue Craven will be remembered for, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Freddy Krueger. I rewatched this for this episode, and yeah, it's a pretty tight, perfect slasher movie. Freddy, didn't start out as the guy with the fucking power glove beating his high score. Freddy used to be scary, and this first movie, it launched Johnny Depp's career, based on a true account of kids who were so unbelievably terrified to go to sleep that it killed them. They had a nightmare so severe they died, which is terrifying. And yeah, this movie works because the characters, because the story, the score, god damn, the music. Charles Bernstein's awesome score is one of my favorite horror scores ever. This is just a solid movie that in a franchise that I wish had more good movies. But from the start, like, this was something special.
Yeah, I have more to say coming up. But yeah, no, I feel a lot of you on that one. For me, my number 3 was Scream 2. I've always loved this sequel. I have always thought, like, for a film that got like rushed and rushed from the very beginning, because Weinstein's just, I guess, thought people were just going to magically forget Scream if they waited an extra year. Like, okay. I thought they pulled this off wonderfully. To me, it's a sequel that just like finds a really good way to continue the story Again, I know they had to change the twist because that actually got leaked before the film came out. So the whole Billy's mom thing was actually not originally what they had intended, but I still thought it worked. It made sense. Like they mentioned her in the first film, it's implied heavily that he was a mama's boy. So okay, yeah, I can go with that. Um, and yeah, it had the balls at the time to kill off Randy, like who, at the time was like one of the main cast members. It's like, oh shit, he'll be safe. He started the first movie. And no, the film just fucking eviscerates him, following the rules they established earlier when he went over the rules anyway. So, that scene always like was one of my favorites. It has the whole dancing in the cafeteria scene, which it's so stupid, but I love it. I just love that scene with Jerry O'Connell.
Yeah.
This is just like, to me, a great film that I don't feel the rush like at all. Like it seems like the film that I got looks like they had all the time in the world to make it, which really impresses me. I love the opening with Jada Pinkett Smith. I think it was, oh god, I want to say Omar Epps, but I might be fucking off.
I think it was.
Yeah, he's actually one of my favorite deaths when he gets fucking like, it looks like he gets stabbed in the goddamn ear. Like, oh god. And yeah, her whole death like in the theater when she like, it just, this film really, this is a case of a sequel that to me damn near it's as good, if not just a tad bit better than one. Like it's right up there with one for me. It's hard.
Yeah, no argument here. I think a big part of it working is that Kevin Williamson had already written like treatments for sequels when he wrote Scream, just in case they wanted a franchise. So he was able to build off that. So that probably is why this feels so complete.
Mm.
And moving right along on that, my number 2 is Scream, the OG. I remember watching the VH1. No, was it VH1? No, it was Bravo's 100 Scariest Movie Moments, and they were talking about Scream. And Wes Craven talked about how this he was starting to get a little disillusioned with the industry. He wasn't making great movies. Vampire in Brooklyn didn't work out. So, and some kid walked up to him and said, I just watched Last House on the Left. You should make something that really kicks ass again. And that inspired him to join up with this movie Scream. And I guess I don't want to say his career was rejuvenated, but he definitely got, I think, the spark back. This movie changed rejuvenated the slasher genre. It's, if you haven't seen it, I envy you, because going into this thing cold is exciting, especially since the way they kill off Drew Barrymore in the first act immediately fucks with your sense of security, and that is really smart. And Ghostface at the time was a terrifying costume. That was the character looked. I mean, it's been ruined by decades of Halloween costumes and parodies at this point, but it was scary in '96, and the constant misdirects, the idea of the horror movie rules, how to survive a horror movie. It's a horror movie about horror movies. It's so meta and clever and still holds up, and started a franchise that's continuing to this day. Literally, there's a new one next week. It's a great movie. First Scream. No one's ever going to bet against Scream. It's an awesome movie with a great cast, a lot of great twists, and a satisfying conclusion. Yeah.
Yeah. That's another one I'll say for mine, but going back to one you've already talked about, at my number 2 is the OG Nightmare on Elm Street. What more can I really add to this? Like, this is a classic of horror. Robert Englund, yeah, Jesus Christ, it's late here, sorry. Robert Englund's portrayal is iconic. It's probably like, other than New Nightmare, this is my favorite version for Dark Freddy. I do really like his take on Freddy in the third film. I think that was like the perfect balance of like the comedy we're going to get, but still being scary. This one, I just love how fucking terrifying he is as Freddy Krueger. It's fucking awesome. Craven really, to me, just knocked out part making a slasher that stood out from the pack at the time. Because this came out in '84, so the slasher swing was in full bloom, and they were just filled with the same, not talking, mindless killer killing counselors. And he found a way to make it different. Like you said, we're basing it off something he had read, with people literally dying in their sleep. That's something that was terrifying them. And using that for the basis on this, and gave us like one of the most popular fucking figures in horror in Freddy Krueger. And to me, one of my more favorite final girls in Nancy, as played by Heather Langenkamp. She fucking rocks. And she popped up, and to the point that she popped up 2 more times. I mean, she was in 3, and then she popped up again in New Nightmare. So yeah, this movie is it's awesome. I love it. The remake obviously was never going to match up because there's other reasons for that. A lot of it, I know we talked about in the 10 worst movies, they like just were not talking to Craven about the movie at all. So it's like a lot of things went to where that felt. But this one, OG Nightmare, great fucking horror film.
Yep, enough said. So that leads me to my number 1 pick. A film that brings together classic Wes Craven and meta Wes Craven in this fantastic hybrid movie, Wes Craven's New Nightmare. This movie is one of my all-time favorites and really shows his brilliance as a filmmaker and his willingness to experiment. Because no one had tried anything like this before. A movie about the new Nightmare on Elm Street where Freddy enters the real world. Fuck yeah. I mean, this is awesome. And it's a demon wearing Freddy's face. That's just so cool. The freaking like embedded in the hand claws, the bone claws were so creepy. The kill where the claw comes to life when the husband's driving and just like eviscerates him. I mean, when he turns into a big slug and tries to eat like people, like, god damn, man. This movie is a gem, and it's so smart and so creepy. And Wes Craven's in it. Robert Englund as himself is in it. And, you mentioned Heather Langenkamp and John Saxon. And it's just really cool to watch kind of a film that celebrates the best of the Elm Street franchise while also being a perfectly self-contained horror epic. I really think he topped himself with New Nightmare.
I think he did great with New Nightmare. I just think with my number 1, he perfected what he did with New Nightmare with this film, and that was, for me, my number 1 being Scream. But no, New Nightmare was fucking, like I said, I love it. It's one of my favorite Nightmare installments. But yeah, my number 1, like I said, Scream. This has always been a favorite of mine, my favorite Wes Craven film. This was, I will never forget when like I had heard about it for years, and I was back when my mom was back when like I don't know if anyone's gonna remember this. When you could join movie clubs that would send DVDs to your fucking
yeah.
My mom was in one of those things. She get the magazine catalog every month, could pick what movie she wanted, they send it to your house. Like purchase, not Netflix rental. Because I had heard so much about Stream and it was Christmas, she had handed me, she's like, hey, just kind of pick something. Pick a couple of movies. I picked all 3 Scream movies because they had all 3 of them. Next thing you know, I have them as like a birthday gift or something like that. Birthday, I never forget because my birthday is in the same month as Christmas, so it gets fuzzy for me. But I remember like she went to go drop like my cousin off one day because we had watched them over the weekend, and I stayed back because I wasn't feeling great, and I was like, "Ooh, I have those Scream DVDs." I popped it in, and I immediately fell in love. I fucking just everything from like the killer to the characters to the meta commentary. I just fell in love. And I'll never forget, like, even my own mother, who's not really big in scary movies, she came home while I was watching. I was like, what's this? I was like, it's scary movies you got me. She sat, and as soon as the movie was over, she looked at me, she goes, put the second one in. As soon as the second one in, she's like, I want to put the third one in. Like, she even fell in love with it. And she was the one that I remember suggested, let's go see the 4th one in theaters. Like, so like, this was just like, to me, like, Craven just, like I said, firing on all cylinders in this movie. I'll say a lot more even when we talk about Scream 3, and I kind of go like what Wes Craven kind of means to me. a lot because, as you know, I was hit very hard when I had the news of his passing. Um, but yeah, Scream 1, man, love this movie.
Yeah, I figured your number one was going to be either Scream or Elm Street, and yeah, not surprised, but I'm glad we were able to do this. This was fun. Let's recap our countdowns. Why don't you start?
Yeah. 11, Scream 3, 10, Shocker, 9, Serpent in the Rainbow, 8, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, 7, The Hills Have Eyes, 6, The Last House on the Left, 5, Scream 4, 4, The People on the Stairs, 3, Scream 2, 2, A Nightmare on Elm Street, and then 1, the OG Scream.
Cool. And my countdown is worst to best, Deadly Blessing, Cursed, Shocker, Scream 4, The People Under the Stairs, Vampire in Brooklyn, Scream 3, The Serpent in the Rainbow, Music of the Heart, Red Eye, Scream 2, The Last House on the Left, The Hills Have Eyes, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream, and Wes Craven's New Nightmare. That's Wes Craven's career, worst to best for the most part. Definitely had more fun doing this than we would have had talking about the Tender Bar.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, I'm already in full Scream mode. I'm going through my marathon, probably because we got the Scream 3 episode, but also because the new movies coming out. Cavity Colors dropped a major Scream clothes collection. I have a T-shirt and joggers coming in. I'm on full Scream mode right now. So yeah, I had way more fun with this than watching two films that did not interest me at all.
Yeah, and that's the kind of shit you can look forward to for 2022's sneak preview. If we don't like the movies, we're not fucking watching them. So we'll do some fun shit like this. Thanks for listening, everybody. If you like the show, you can always follow us on the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Filmgazm Productions, or you can email us at filmgazm@gmail.com. Check out the website, filmgazm.com, where we've got daily reviews and articles and trailers and every episode of all of our shows. If you want to support the show, you can click on support this podcast on your podcast provider. We appreciate any donations. Next week, we get to discuss two potentially awesome 2022 releases in theaters. We've got the new Scream, and on Apple TV Plus, we've got The Tragedy of Macbeth. It's sure to be an awesome week. I, for one, am looking forward to the Coen brothers, or, well, just Joel, take on Shakespeare. Don't miss...
I said, I'm glad you are.
I know. I'm alone. Don't miss Scream 3 on Wednesday's Filmgazm, 2005's Doom on Friday's Beyond the Bad, and a Best Picture showdown on No Country for Old Men on Oscar Sunday. Have a great week and keep watching movies.